All right, it looks like everyone pretty much is logged in now, so we'll go ahead and get started with today's webinar on OmegaRecruit. Thanks for joining. My name is Heather McLeod, and I am with OmegaFi's professional services team. And I have with me today Sarah Beth Russell, who is also with OmegaFi's professional services team. For those of you who are not familiar with us, I did just want to give a little bit of a background on OmegaFi. OmegaFi is the company that hosts and supports OmegaRecruit. And we've actually been around for more than 30 years. And we provide technology solutions to help customers for a wide variety of reasons with our products, such as managing finances, streamlining operations, recruiting new members, as you all are familiar with or will be familiar with OmegaRecruit, as well as communicating with members. And we actually work with 57 different headquarters and local chapters, as well as house corporations and IFC and Panhellenic councils and alumni associations across more than 650 campuses. And we continue to remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. We are actually based out of Columbus, Georgia, and we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our customers. And we've actually securely processed more than $4 billion since we started in 1992. So obviously we are deeply committed to serving and promoting and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience, and aim to make raving fans with every individual or group that we work with by reaching and innovating and acting with agility, and challenge ourselves every day to dream big and help others achieve their dreams. So to say that we're passionate about what we do is an understatement, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so that you can focus on your mission and having fun. So again, that's just a brief update or background on OmegaFi. Before I turn things over to Sarah Beth to do the training, I wanted to make sure that you all know how to submit questions to us throughout the training. So you should see in your window there a question box where you can type in a question and get those answered. And I want to test that out really quick before we get started. So in that question box, please type in your name and your chapter. And that way we can see who's with us today, and then also make sure that that question box has worked. All right, I see those coming in. Thank you all very much for doing that. So of course, as we continue throughout the training, if you have a question, type it in there and we'll make sure to get your questions answered today. All right, I'll turn it over to Sarah Beth now.
Thank you, Heather. So today we'll go ahead and get started. We are going to be looking at the OmegaRecruit system, going through the menu options that you're going to use throughout the year when going through recruitment, and what that's going to look like, especially for any of you new officers out there. Our agenda today, the main things that we're going to look at, if the previous officers have not already done so, we're going to look at how to pull reports from fall before doing a master reset, and then we'll talk about managing your users and the different resources that are within OmegaRecruit, and then we will have Q&A. Typically, when you first log in, it's going to look something like this, but if a master reset has not already been run, then you'll probably have your PNMs from fall and any data that is within that as well. So all their votes and that sort of thing. So if this is what you're looking at, you'll want to make sure that you've pulled any reporting and do a master reset before spring recruitment comes around. But what we're going to do right now is start by going through the menu options and what all you have available within the system. So if we look here, this is the setup page. This is going to be important when running your practice recruitments as well as your actual recruitment rounds. So if you click the setup in the top left-hand corner, you are going to get to that setup page. You'll normally see steps 1 through 8. When you close that, that's how you get to your P&M list. Your P&M list is going to be your main hub of information when going through your data from recruitment. So this is going to be where you see all your P&Ms as well as any votes that have come in, what party they're in, several different things there. So looking at the P&M list, it also has a menu in the upper right-hand corner here. If you click on that, you have a few different options. You have refresh and recalculate. These two are going to be important when actually going through the recruitment process. The refreshing and recalculating is going to help to make sure you have the most accurate data information when recruitment is live. So as votes are continuously coming in, you can do that recalculate and see those update automatically. And then we're going to look at here your select columns. This is going to be how you will manipulate the table to show whatever you are wanting it to show in terms of information. So if you want it to have their GPAs, their major, anything like that, you'll need to add that in. And you'll always want to make sure that you have all your rounds selected, so you'll be able to see the scoring from each of those. Additionally, you guys have a slideshow that you can access here with that information, and you can export the P&M list. So if you need to export the data from fall, make sure you go ahead and export that list, and that will pull all that information. You can save that separately, so then you are ready to master reset. And then once you've pulled any data information, so we have this, and we'll go through all the other reports as well that you can pull. Once you pull that, you can do your master reset under the chapter tab, and we're going to go ahead and do that so we can look at the different menu options and what that's going to look at from a fresh start. So when you go in to do the master reset, as you can see, there are several different warnings here letting you know you're doing the master reset and then what chapter you're doing that for, and it's going to let you know everything that's going to happen. So any P&Ms that were previously in there and any of their data is going to be removed. All votes and comments are going to be deleted, and it's going to set the system back to before recruitment. So we're going to go ahead and hit to reset that, and that is just going to take everything back to a clean slate. So when you come to that, you'll see it's going to go ahead and direct you to put in your dates for recruitment. If you don't know your dates, you can put in any dates you think are going to be your recruitment dates and always update those later. So once you update those, it's going to prompt you to do step 1, which is setting up your recruitment rounds. So if we go to the P&M list, again, this is where your initial setup always is. And so we'll go to step 1, setting up the rounds, and we'll do this as if we are doing practice recruitment, since we are just going to be going through the menu options. So you can add your rounds with this button here, and then you can change those rounds with the pencil icon. You can also change your voting type between open and party voting, which we have several webinars that go through the practice recruitment if you want to learn more about the specifics of setting up those rounds. But we'll go ahead and save this for now. And then the next thing on the list here is you can add P&Ms or upload P&Ms. So we'll look at add P&Ms. This is if you want to do so individually. Typically, you'll only use this if you have a P&M that has come into recruitment late, has been added, and you just need to add one particular person. But typically, you're going to use the upload P&Ms. Now, for uploading your P&Ms, different schools will look a little different. If you are a school that uses ICS for your recruitment software on campus, then you'll connect to ICS, which we'll look at how you can do that in the chapter tab later. But once you've connected to ICS, you'll be able to import your P&Ms from ICS when actual recruitment comes around, but you'll still want to be able to upload practice files, so you don't have to connect to ICS until recruitment comes around. And so here, this is how most everybody's going to do it. So if you don't use ICS, you use a different recruitment software, you will upload those from a file that you'll need to download from whatever recruitment software that you use. Now make sure to look at the detailed instructions and examples. This is going to be important to how you upload them. Again, one of our other webinars goes through that a little more in detail, but basically just very plain, nothing italics, nothing bold, plain text in that, and then following these headers here, you'll upload that information and save it under the 97-2003 workbook. And we do have practice files available on that setup page. So we're going to take that practice file and upload those P&Ms. So here you can see that was successful. If you ever have anything come up that prevents the file from uploading, it will give you the error here. We are missing some unrequired columns, but because they're unrequired, it didn't stop the upload from occurring. And then next we have where you can upload your parties. If your chapter does party voting rather than wanting to do open voting, like I said, there are some other materials that go a little more in depth on that, but if you have different parties and you're going to use party voting, you can upload those different party rounds to specify what P&Ms are coming in what parties, and you'll be able to do that here. We, again, on the setup page here, we have practice files in this top section, so you can practice with party voting if that is something you're wanting to use. And then next we have our matching tool here. This is going to be great for when you are wanting to set your members to speak to certain P&Ms. So this is going to allow you to be able to better choose matches for your P&Ms, especially if you have a large number of P&Ms and members that you're trying to match with. So depending on what you're wanting those criteria to be, we have 4 different sets of criteria here. We have recommendations. So when you go and have your members actually do voting, they can recommend a sister to speak to a certain P&M. So they can submit those recommendations there. And that's what this one is going to use. You can make that required. But if you do make that required, then even if they have a common interest or hometown, if they don't have a recommendation, then they won't populate in the matches. That's what recommendations are. You can use your starred members and P&Ms. The starring system is essentially you can use that to pick out specific P&Ms and members that you're wanting to speak to each other, so you can star them specifically. For instance, if you have a specific member who is very good at recruitment and you want to have her have optimal number of matches with P&Ms and certain P&Ms that you're really trying to pull, then you can star those members to be matched up with each other. And then again, this one also has the required. And then you also have interest in hometown. So when you're uploading those P&Ms, you can put that information in the upload in order to better assist in the matching process. And then we also have down here, you can manipulate the number of matches for your members and for the P&Ms, and then choose what round you're wanting to do that. Then you can generate the matches and view those. So here you can see those generated, and this is just going to be really great to, again, help you match girls more efficiently. I will say when you are calculating the matches, the higher number of matches that you allow, the more data you're going to have to sift through. So if you want to limit your data, you can make this number smaller to make that a smaller pool for you to look through. And you can change it for each round. So once a girl has already spoken to someone, you can switch to round 2 and eliminate those girls who they've already spoken with. And then after matching, we can look at any comments here. This is going to show, you can download the file for that. So when they submit their vote, they can put a comment with their vote and it will come into this report. So this is shown here, but also you'll see it in the reports as well when we get to that. You also have the option to do recommendations. So if you guys require recommendations for your P&Ms, you can use this here to send that out to your alum, provide that for the P&Ms. If your alum have any recommendations, they can submit that here, and then you can export that. So as you can see here, it's just a basic recommendation sheet. So if you want to gather your information through that, that is a great tool to be able to use if that is something your chapter does require. Okay, and moving on from recommendations, here is your reporting. So earlier when I mentioned before you do your master reset, if you want to pull any data, this is where you're going to find most of that. So you can generate your reports here. You can generate a report based on your P&Ms, your votes. So if you want to organize that by your votes, you can also restrict that data or organize that data. So if you only want to show your active P&Ms, you can select that. So essentially this would only show P&Ms that made it all the way through the process. So however you're wanting to pull that data, if you want to include everyone that went through recruitment, then you could leave that blank, but it just allows you that option, and you can sort it by either your users, your members, or you can sort it by P&M. So you'll see each individual P&M listed and then what your users voted for that P&M. And this is where you see the other comments report that can be pulled. Again, a few different criteria that you can sort that by, and you can choose what rounds those are for. Same with the votes. And then this option here is another slideshow option. It's a little different from the one on the P&M list. That is going to be an in-browser slideshow, whereas this is going to be a PowerPoint slideshow. So if you prefer PowerPoint, this might be a better option for you, but it does have less data than in the in-browser slideshow. So just depending on which one you're wanting, you can look at both of those, but you do have both of those options available to you. And then we have voter distribution report. That's going to be to just show your data more organized, show how your voters or your members are voting, and then how that looks for each P&M. And then we also recently added the voter audit report. This really benefits you guys to have that information when any changes are made to votes. So we do say, try to have as little changes as possible if that's what you're wanting, but to keep that just a fair voting process. But if you do have to make changes, this is really great because you can now see who has made changes, what the original vote was, what it was changed to, and that information. So you can pull the audit report for that if you need to see what changes were made to a vote. And then after your reporting, you are done with your P&M section. So we'll look at your users. So here we can find the user list. This is just going to list all your users. If you're an administrator, you'll be checked off here. And I do want to mention that we do a master reset during the summer. With that, if you are not an admin user, then all your regular users will be wiped from the system to be re-added once fall recruitment rolls around. So only your admins will be left. So make sure that you are selected as an admin if you're an incoming officer, so that previous officer can update your admin status. And if you are, then just make sure when any new officers are elected, you appropriately update them so that they will be able to access the system when time comes that reset occurs. But this is going to be your user list here. You can see who has not registered by the send registration email. So if any of your members have not set up their account yet, then you can resend them that link. You can star your members from here. This is that option for matching that we talked about earlier. You can delete members, you can restrict them, and you can put them in different groups to organize, like if you use bump groups. And to add your users, you have this option here. You can add them individually, or again, you can upload them in a file for your users. All you'll need in that file upload is their first and last name and their email address. Once you submit that, they will receive an email to get their account set up. If they've already logged in before, they will just log in with the same credentials they previously used, and it'll get them in the system. If they are new, then they'll have to set up their account. And then here you also have some additional reporting on your users. So if you want to pull that as well, that's going to just give you information on your members that is in the system. And then you also have your hub here. This is a really great tool when going through recruitment to help you track your data. So as your votes are coming in, you can see your votes will populate here. You'll see the distribution of that, how many people are getting what type of votes, if there's any outliers, anything like that. You have a few different charts here that show different data with those votes. And then you also have some information here that is just showing from the P&M upload. So that information that came in with that. And you can click this little arrow in the bottom corner of the graph and it'll give you those data points, and you can download these graph data points as well if you want to look at that in an exported form. Next, on the chapter tab, this is going to be your general setup, kind of where you access most of your setup of your OmegaRecruit. On your first tab here, this is where you'll advance your parties and rounds. So when going through practice recruitment, you'll see that you can jump your rounds from here. If you have parties, you'll also have the option to go to round 1 party, however many parties you have, 1 through whatever. And then you can also open and close those rounds accordingly. This is going to just help keep that process limited in time scope, so everybody's not submitting votes throughout the night. They have a limited amount of time. Voting cuts off at X time, and you can close that off, especially if you have rounds that span multiple days. It's a really great tool to use that just to make sure that people aren't going in later and adding votes. Here is where we initially set up our rounds. You can go and edit those through here as well. Now, I will go ahead and mention that for some organizations, if they have specific configurations to the system, you'll want to make sure you set up all your rounds initially. And I would say that is a great practice for everyone. So when going in, go ahead and initially, when you set up your rounds, set up all of them that you're going to have. So if you know it's going to be a 4-round recruitment, then go ahead and just set that up and save that. So everything is good to go and you'll see all 4 rounds within your chart rather than just round 1 and you add it each night. This is going to just help you keep that a little more organized. And for people who have specific configurations, some of those configuration calculations depend on having your round set up initially. And then here is where you can edit your chapter. So this is where you'll see your chapter name, university, and your recruitment date. So again, if you're not sure of them, you can set them up initially and go in and later change them to the exact recruitment dates. Here you have some options for editing custom columns. When you do your P&M upload, there is an option for custom columns of data if there's something that is not already listed in that upload, where the headers, those specific headers are, and then you can rename them here. And for you schools that use ICS, this is where you will connect to ICS. So you'll follow this here and connect to your ICS system, and that is going to be what sets up your account to load your P&Ms, as well as if you use parties, then it'll load your parties that way as well. You'll just have that button that says import from ICS. And then what we looked at earlier, the master reset, is your last thing on your chapter tab. And now I know I mentioned that certain organizations have different configurations. So if you do have that, you'll have this page here. This says configuration. So if you don't have anything, you'll just see this is how everything is tallied. So you can look at that as well just to see this is how the calculations are done. If you do have specific to your organization, your specific Greek letters will be listed there. And same as this, it will just show you how everything is calculated. It'll be that guideline and basis for round setup as well. And for the resources that are available to you guys, you have this training tab here. This is going to be a screenshot by screenshot of how you can set up your practice recruitment. Like I said, we do have videos on that as well. So we have some previous webinars, but this also lists this out with instructions here as well if you want that additional resource. and then you can go to this Help Me tab here. If you ever have any questions, you can search in here, a certain keyword, and it'll bring up the different articles that are associated with that. Anything you're looking for, you can look on this or search here and it'll pull that up. But this goes through a lot of different commonly asked questions. And then after looking at your training and the Help Me, if you're still not finding something you need, you can click your Get Help button here. This takes you to additional article information, so you can search here as well, look for that information. And if you're still not finding what you need or you're experiencing something in the system unusual, you can submit a request up in the right-hand corner here, and it'll ask you for a bunch of different information. You can request your priority. So if it's something that's a little more urgent, you can choose that, and then just make sure when you are submitting these requests, if you have any screenshots, as much information as you can give us, that's going to really help us come recruitment time to better respond to you guys and in a timely fashion, so we can more quickly figure out what's going on or what you're looking at exactly. So any screenshots, additional information, description of that is just going to really help our support team to support you guys the best they can. And so those are the resources that you guys have. And you can also email our software support, which let me get that up on the screen, and we'll go ahead and start Q&A while I get that.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah Beth. So I think that I answered all of the questions that have come in so far. Thank you for those that submitted them. We're going to be on for just a couple more minutes. So if you do have any other questions you want to post there, feel free to do that now and we'll get them answered. One question that came through, I've already answered it again, but I think it's good for the group. Lindsay had a question about viewing vote comments and where to see that information. So there's a couple of ways to pull that. One is you can go, if you're looking for details on a specific PNM, that's back on the PNM list, which Sarah Beth is bringing up now. So you can just go there, select the whichever PNM it is that you're looking for, and then click on the tab for comments and you can see that. There's also a couple of options for reports. So if you go to PNMs and then comments there on the left, you can view the comments directly from that page with downloading that. And then also there are some edit and sorting, yeah, right there, to reports and then comment. So several different places you can pull those. So wanted to make sure that everyone on the call here could see that. And then I did just want to reiterate a couple of things that Sarah Beth has already shown you, but there we get lots of questions about these things, so I want to point them out. The first being the master reset. So the master reset is important, but it's important that you only do that when you're ready to really clear the slate, because once you run the master reset, it can't be undone. So of course you need to do that when you're getting ready to start a new term and voting to remove all of the previous terms voting information. But also once you do some of your test rounds, when you're getting ready to do live recruitment, it's important to run the master reset. But just please be careful when you're doing that and make sure you've already downloaded everything that you need before running that, because once you run the reset, it can't be undone. So just want to reiterate that. We get lots of questions about that. And then also the configuration page. So we have national partnerships with lots of different organizations. And so some of you all will have, certain settings in your OmegaRecruit account that are set by your national headquarters. And that's related to rounds and parties and scoring and that sort of thing. So make sure you're checking out that link or that item over there on the left menu for configuration. You can go there to get some specifics about your national organization and how your voting works. And then lastly, I just want to make sure that, again, that you all know how to get help if you need it. So we have that great help center. If you click on Get Help, that green Get Help button, that takes you to our help center. Lots of articles, lots of videos, All previous webinars are there. You can watch those. So great information. It's available at any time, 24/7. You can get to it. And then if you're still not finding what you need, feel free to send us an email, and we'll be glad to get your question answered. And it's recruitment_support@omegafi.com. You can also click on that support widget that Sarah Beth was just showing within OmegaRecruit, and that will get you to us as well. All right, well, I think that's it for today. Or Sarah Beth, anything else you want to add to that?
When looking at the ballot, this is where your members would actually submit their comments, just to give a view of that.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, we again appreciate all of you joining us this afternoon. The recording of today's webinar will be emailed out to anyone that registered. So I know we had some folks that registered and they weren't able to make it to this live recording, but anybody that registered will get an email later this week with the recording. It will also be available on our YouTube channel and in the Help Center. If you need to refer back or want to share that with other officers in your chapter. So thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Good luck with the upcoming term. And of course, let us know if we can help with anything. Y'all have a great afternoon.